After you get a good balance, if your limiter is killing your low end when mastering, I'm going to show you a trick I've been using recently to avoid this. Now, I've got this session up for Something About You by Dugong Jr., and I love this part of the song. I love it. Take a listen. Fucking beautiful. There's so much detail in the sound, especially those sublays. We spent a lot of time going back and forth getting it perfect. Now, the wrong type of limiting on this is going to thin it out. And I do this in Ozone, but you can do it with any limiter where you can just listen to the delta signal. That's really important. You need to be able to listen to the delta signal. Now, first, I'm using two kinds of limiters here, and not because I'm trying to share the load and make it easier for each limiter. No, the vintage limiter in Ozone has a unique transfer curve. It increases the loudness of everything below the ceiling by about 0.3 decibels, and this is simply just free gains to add loudness without changing the tonal balance of the signal below the ceiling. I've got the transfer curve here and the linear response. The linear response is flat. The transfer curve, you can see that difference there. Now, I still dial this in using the delta signal because I use the delta mode to hear the difference in the signal where the threshold is. That's catching a little bit too much of the kick. So the kick is just pumping a bit too much, which means I'm going to lose a little bit of energy on that kick. We're going to listen here now. Kick still gets limited a little bit, but a lot of that sub energy, half a decibel of threshold makes a big difference to how much sub was actually pulling away. Now at a max, that's doing half a dB of limiting. It's just taking those little bits out, but it's not crunching the sub, which is super important. The maximizer, if you know how the IRC algorithm works, this is going to make the best sense. And if you don't, please watch this video. This detailed video will be linked in the description on the IRC pattern and the algorithm, because these styles here and this character knob are super powerful. Super powerful. It always has been in Ozone, but not many people understand how it functions. Now, same as the vintage limiter, I'm going to enable the delta signal, make sure the other one's turned off. Yep. And listen with a heavy amount of gain reduction. And what we're going to do is we're going to flick through these different styles here to see which one's tonal compression weighting works best. Now, each of these styles is a set of time-bound envelopes the IRC algorithm uses to assign its limiter settings. It's a little bit confusing. As I said, watch the full video, link in description so you understand it best. But let's listen with some heavy compression going on. We'll make this 9, and we'll listen as we flick through these algorithms to see how it manipulates the signal. You hear that? Transient's usually one of my more favorite algorithms because it can get really good work on very snappy, punchy, rhythmic sort of sections. But the problem with this one is that sub is very sustained, especially in the low end, the kick. It's very round and it's chewing that up a lot, which isn't good. We don't want that. The best ones to my ear was the clipping. In the final master I actually did that was released, I used the balanced mode. But for the sake of this exercise, clipping was the best. And again, this character is going to change the distortion threshold for the algorithm, which picks which set of time-bound envelopes within the clipping style it chooses to apply to the limiting. That's a bit confusing. Again, watch the full video, link in description. But basically, we've had a listen. I personally thought the clipping took the least amount of low end out of it. And now what we can do is we can dial this gain back and manipulate the character. Not taking much low end out anymore. So let's turn off the delta and have a listen to the final. Like this was pretty much the final master, except I was using balance mode. Let's have a listen, and we can also check the loudness because it should be about -7 LUFS, I reckon, for this section, thereabouts. Let's have a listen. So the max momentary LUFS is -6, integrated's about 7, 8, almost 8, which is really good for a section like this that's up and down. It's freaking loud, but also we got all the low end, all the sub juice, all the chesty punches and subs is all there. The limiter didn't break it up. That's how I've been doing it. Listening to the delta signal, bit of vintage limiter, and then going through the styles. And if you've got a different limiter, go through different styles on the limiter, change the parameters until it sits right. Feel free to subscribe and like. Until next time, take care.